is up? Motorfest Racers, it is I, your wheelman, Alex Cornnut. We are here today with the Honda S2000 Shootout. I've got three of them for you. We've got the Motorfest Edition, the Ultimate Edition, and then the Haar Edition, the brand new Summit car. We're going to compare them all. We're going to drive them around the test track, see which ones go the fastest, what the strengths and weaknesses are of each one, so no matter which Honda S2000 you want to drive, you know what you're getting into, and arguably we can try to discern which one's the best one. Lots to unpack here. Let's dig into it. We are starting off this video with the Motorfest Edition, which of the three has the least amount of horsepower. I've got all three of them right here. They've all got max 750 parts on them that are gold. And if we go into the details, you'll see that the Motorfest Edition has got 654 brake horsepower. The Ultimate Edition has got 666. And then the Haar Edition's got 700. The difference between them is acceleration is all the same, but that braking yardage is a little different between all of them. And then the lateral G's goes up way on the Haar Edition. So it really, there is some differences there between the three. I would say the best stopping power one's probably going to be the Motorfest Edition, and then the best handling one for like turns at speed is probably going to be the Haar. But I'm going to give you tunes for all of them, so let me give you the Motorfest Edition right now. For the pro settings on this car, you are going to run the final drive all the way long. For the grip, you're going to go -2% in the front and full 100% in the rear. For the brake balance, you're going to fade it all the way to the back, so that is 40%. And then brake power, 100% as we do. Aero is going to be 100%, and the load in the rear is going to be -9%. We're going to take a little bit out of the back. It's going to help the car turn in a little bit. And if you have problems with the vehicle to where you're finding it slides too much for you, just add a little more load to the rear. It'll stop that rear end from being so rowdy. But by doing that, it's going to take away a little bit from the turn in. It's going to make the car feel just a little understeery. So be aware of that going in, you guys. But if you have any problems with the vehicles, usually go to that load rear and bump that up first. That's where I would start experimenting before I changed anything else. For the suspension, we've got it full stiff in the front, so that's +10%, and then +6% in the rear, so not quite as stiff in the back. For the damper compression, we are +4 in the front and +11 in the rear. For the rebound, we are +6 in the front and +15% in the rear. For the ARB, which is your anti-roll bars, we are +10 stiff, both front and rear, so we're going to bring it all the way up there. And then for your camber, we are -25% in the front and -25% in the rear. So we are full Beyonce to the left, get that camber all the way out, give you that mechanical grip. Guys, that is going to give you the S2000 Motorfest Edition. Make sure that when you're going through the customization, you slap on a set of wide fenders. Get those tires out as far away from the body as you can to give yourself more stability. That's how I tested the car, and so I would like you guys to have a similar setup for when you're driving it, so that way we get 1-to-1 ratios. And then also make sure that you grab a set of good vanity tires. Fun fact, for the Motorfest Edition, you cannot do any liveries. You can change the color, but that M and that kind of red stripe on the side, that stays no matter what you do. So it's funny, each car has its own version of what you can and cannot change, and so I kind of like that. Let me show you what we've got for our next Honda in the lineup. We'll do it all in one take. We move into the Honda S2000 Ultimate Edition. This one's got 666 horsepower. For the customization on this one, you can do all of it. So you can do all the visual parts, and then you can do the liveries and such as well. The Ultimate Edition is actually what we would consider the stock edition that you get in the game. And so once again, with everything, make sure that you are doing those wide fenders on the front. Bring those tires out as wide as you can to get the best stability. And then you can also throw a livery on this one, so it's all good there. For the pro settings, it's very, very similar to the other one, but some subtle changes. Final drive all the way long, that way you can get the most out of it in the grand race. In the draft, final grip, -2%, or final grip front, -2%, and then the grip in the rear is 100%. For the brake balance, you're going to fade that once again all the way to the back, 40%. Brake power 100% as we do, and then the load, it is 100% in the front and then -9 in the rear. Same kind of deal on this, you guys. If you find the car to be too rowdy, just back off, or some of that reduction in the load, or add it back in there, I guess you could say. Maybe go 5%, start there, and then if it's still too rowdy, just increase that. But baseline, start with -9%. For the springs, we are full stiff in the front, +10%, and then +6 in the rear. For the compression front and rear, it's +4 in the front and +11 in the rear. For the rebound, it is +6 in the front and +15 in the rear. And then the ARB, that's +10, +10. And then your camber is -2.5, -2.5. Full Beyonce to the left on that camber on this car. These two, the Ultimate Edition and the Motorsport or Motorfest Edition, excuse me, they are very, very similar. You'll see that reflected in the lap times. I mean, we're talking, the horsepower is helpful on this one. It got me around the track a couple of tenths faster, but they're very, very close. Now, as we select the Kamiya Haar Edition, for the customization on this one, no visual parts, no color change. You can do vanity things of all, and then you can change the livery, but as what you see is what you get as far as the body work and such goes. So each Honda's a little different. It's kind of funny there. Let's go into the Pro settings. For the final drive, it is all the way long on this one, and now the changes between the other two vehicles start to really take shape. For the grip in the front, we are -3%, so a skosh more than the other two cars, and then grip in the rear is 100. For the brake balance, you are 60% on the braking, so you are actually fading it more to the front than the other two. And I'm not sure if it's just a weight distribution, but it was the only way we could really get this thing to stop in any kind of capacity that we currently have. Brake power 100% as we do. Aero is 100% in the front, and then you're going to back it off a ton in the rear. It's -17%. Once again, if it's too rowdy for you, if you don't like the way that is, add more aero load to the rear, bring it to 9, bring it to 5, something of that nature. But where we were doing with this one, to try to keep it consistent with the other Hondas, or the other S2000s in this case, -17% got us pretty close on that one. It doesn't handle too bad, and this is the configuration I use in the test footage, and you'll see that they're all pretty close. Springs, we are +10 in the front and we are -6 in the rear, so we're staying pretty consistent there. For the compression, we are +4 in the front and +11 in the rear. And for the rebound, we are +6 in the front and +15 in the rear. The ARB anti-roll bars is +10, +10. And then for your camber, you are -2.5, -2.5. Full Beyonce front and rear for that camber setup. So there's some subtle changes for this one. Basically the aero load was where we really started to play with that, and if we backed it off to match kind of what the other cars were and go there with it, it really seemed a little understeery. But by backing it back off and getting into that 17 percentile, it actually gave us a little bit better lateral G's, and it made the car feel a little better for us, more consistent. Overall, that is the 3 tunes. Let me know which one you guys like best. If you do try all 3, maybe come back to the video, put a comment on there. I think of the 3, this one is my favorite, and then I'll show you the lap times to reflect why I feel that way. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for that gameplay footage, and we will see you next time. We're in the Motorfest Edition. You can see that with the stripe on the side. It's very important that we know which car we're testing here, so that way there's no confusion. This thing is pretty bonkers as far as what the in-game stats say. Like the fact that it says it's got 656 horsepower, I think it was. That'd be crazy in this chassis. Like, that's just an unheard of, unreasonable amount of power. And then it goes up from there. The Ultimate Edition has got 666 horsepower. And then we get into the brand new car that we just got from the Summit, and that car's got 700. So it's like, that's why we had to do this shootout. They are different in what their max power levels are, and the Summit reward we just got got a little bit better lateral G's. The stats are considerably different on that one, and obviously I showed you guys that in the build footage, so there's no question there. But just touching on that as we go around the track, it's pretty cool stuff. Pretty good line there. We're gonna have to try to recreate that with every other car, but we'll see how it goes. I'm so used to testing the Street Tier 1 Hondas around this and the other shootouts that we've done. This car just feels blazing fast. I'm like, yeah, this thing rips, and I'm like, oh yeah, Street Tier 2. It better rip. It's got a lot more power. All right, lap 1, looking pretty good. The only thing that this testing doesn't show us is what the top speed of this car is inside the draft. Like, that's the move, right? Knowing how fast it goes, top speed in the grand race is a huge asset to us, because that draft speed sometimes is the difference between you walking somebody down and them walking away from you. Lap 2 is not quite as clean through there, but we didn't really lose much time, so we'll keep it up. But if we can get an idea of how fast the cars are, kind of around what I would call the short to mid track, which is what this is, that'll give us a pretty good indicator on how it'll perform in the grand race. Because don't get me wrong, you do draft and you do get up to top speed, but there's a lot of other parts of the track where it's like this, where you're cutting through the town or cutting through the canyons up in, not the canyons, the mountaintop volcano area. And so it's not top speed, it's really handling and how the car does there. So this is, like I say, it doesn't paint the full picture, but it gets us close enough to where we know to start hunting. Alright, 228 is right in line with the other Street Tier 2 cars, so pace was good, S2000's good. Let's see what the fastest lap was, because that's also a statistic that we want to use. Alright, 111.6. Let's see how the Ultimate Edition does. We've got the S2K Ultimate Edition. I kind of liked this pink wrap with the flowers on it. I don't know. I'm usually not like a guy that wraps the cars in pink, but that just had a look that I was happy with. This has got a little more horsepower than the Motorfest Edition, so we'll have to see how it does around the track. Set up very similarly to the other car as far as like the handling sliders and stuff of that nature. We wanted to lock them in pretty close because the chassis were super similar. So consistent handling across the board is kind of what SakuraCommander and I were looking for, and we've achieved that. There's little tweaks to try to get them to handle the same way. Not necessarily go mirror the settings, but mirror the handling characteristics for the car being as good as we can get it, and then it coming to find out that the settings were really close when we did that. This one feels a little peppier. I'm able to turn in a little better too. It feels like it just turns a little easier, turns a little faster. Like I'm able to put the car where I want it, and like I say, I just got done running the Motorfest Edition. I try to run the cars in very quick succession from one another, so I'll immediately feel the difference, which makes my testing a little harder for the videos, because I have to set aside a couple of hours or at least an hour to test all three cars, get plenty of laps in on each car, and that's what I do first. It's like I run the track in each car a handful of times till I get a clean lap, and then I cycle through the cars and run each lap multiple times, or the track multiple times in each car again after I'm warmed up, after I know how the cars are going to handle, and then I start shooting the gameplay footage. That way I'm warmed up, the laps are going to be consistent, it's really a like for like comparison. If I was to walk away from the computer for an hour and go do an errand or something like that, I feel like I would need to restart the entire testing process just to make sure that I'm giving you guys real data. Because if I make any mistakes and the human error element is in there, it's not very scientific, right? So it's kind of like when you do chemistry and stuff. You want your ambient temperature and stuff to be the same kind of all the time to get the same results. That felt fast, and I know there was one gear that I drug out a little long. 228.5. Could have gone a little faster than that, but that's really similar to what we did in the Motorfest Edition. That's funny. I think like we're like a tenth faster. 11.688. I know that there was one time when I was in 6th gear when I should have been in 5th, and the run wasn't quite as clean, but the laps are really similar. So maybe placebo on the car turned in better, but the times reflect the same. Let's see how that new Summit Reward car does. Let's give it a look. The Haar Edition. Let's go. Let's see how fast it is in comparison to the other cars. It's got more horsepower. It's got more lateral G's, so we know it's going to turn better. And overall, I think it'll carry just better corner speed through a majority of the track. But the braking will be a little different because its braking isn't quite as good. But right there, we were able to just go full speed through there on that section. And that's pretty good. The other cars really weren't doing that so well. So, I got a hand for this thing. It feels pretty smooth. My wife has always liked these. She would like one. They're a little impractical being just 2 seats and us having kids that are still in school. I mean, when you go to volleyball practice and then a girl needs a ride home and it's just you and your daughter, there's no room to put another girl in this car. As small as they might be, 2 seats is not enough. But once my daughters are grown and moved out, or just grown, not necessarily moved out, we'll see how that goes. We'll probably need to get one of these cars, but I think they're pretty sick. Slap a big old Wu-Tang whistle, single snail on there, and put 450 horsepower to the wheels and just go zoom. Couldn't do that. If I put 450 to the wheels in one of these cars, it would be faster than my Supra, even though I'm pushing like 515, just because of the weight differential. Like, these things are so light in comparison, and they are so sexy. This one's feeling really good. I feel like I'm carrying a ton of speed through the track. I'm able to put it pretty much anywhere I want as far as like in the turns. Just turn in and know it's going to be right where I want it. Yeah, just light throttle adjustments, and it's turning just fine. Yeah, our exit speed through there is really quite good. We're probably going to set a decent time here. And that's going to be a 227.379. No real mistakes. Maybe a couple corrections I could have made, but overall, this car does it pretty well. Let's see what our final lap time is. A 1:11.0, so that's pretty good. We are discernibly faster per lap on the best lap than we are with the other Hondas. And so I would say that of the 3, this one's got a little more gusto. Maybe not quite as good on the brakes, but overall, I think for grand racing, this is the ticket. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you. That is the Honda S2000, all the editions that I have available to me. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.